Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be going over some severe storms which are going to be impacting the central and northeastern United States. We already have a moderate risk out for today and a slight risk which covers much of the northeast and also pretty much the entire area of the central and southern plains as well. So we're going to be going over all of that and more in today's video, so make sure you are staying tuned all the way until the end. Here's what the current National Weather Service page looks like. As you can see, we have a few frost advisories in North Dakota, northern Minnesota, a little bit of southeastern Idaho, and some parts of the UP of Michigan and north central Michigan as well. We have some flood watches in effect for northeastern Kansas, as well as some red flag warnings in parts of western Colorado and eastern Utah. Other than that, we don't have many other watches or warnings currently in place. Yesterday, we had a high temperature in Rio Grande Village, Texas, where they got up to 170 degrees Fahrenheit, with a low temperature 7 miles northwest of Emery, Utah, where they got down to 19 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest rainfall or precipitation report was in Coleman, Oklahoma, where they got 4.84 inches of rain. And the highest snowfall report, we didn't have any snowfall reports yesterday, so there was no highest snowfall reports. But we actually do have a little bit of snow going on currently in parts of Montana and Idaho. So we'll see how much snowfall we can actually get out of that in tomorrow's video. So here's what the current Storm Prediction Center page looks like for today. So this is the day one outlook, and you can see we have two big areas, one in the northeast and another one in the plains. The first one in the plains, that one is going to be a lot more severe and a lot more major than the one in the northeast. You can see we have an enhanced risk which covers parts of Nebraska and Kansas, as well as Colorado and some of the surrounding areas. And then we have a moderate risk which covers parts of northwestern Kansas and south central parts of Nebraska as well. And they're talking about potentially winds gusting up to 80 miles per hour, even up to 90 miles per hour in a few of these areas. So these are going to be really strong gusts in this moderate and red zone right here. Even a few winds, according to the Storm Prediction Center, which could rival Category 2 hurricane wind speeds. So really high winds in these areas from some of these storms. And if you get stuck in one of those storms, it's going to be tough because we're going to be dealing with a lot of hail as well as winds combined with that. And then you add on the heavy rainfall. So if you're going to be traveling through these areas, it's definitely going to be a little bit hard, especially later this evening with all that rain, the hail, and also the damaging wind. So try and stay inside for today, because after tonight we're going to be done with this big severe weather threat in parts of the central plains. And then we have that slight risk in the northeast, and that covers pretty much the entire northeast except for the coastal areas, the extreme coastal areas. So areas within about 25 to 50 miles of the coast are still in that marginal risk. Areas further inland are under a slight risk. So here's the day 2 outlook for tomorrow, and you can see that we have a big enhanced risk which goes from Texas all the way into Illinois and Missouri. So that's the risk for tomorrow, and I don't think it'll be as severe as what we're dealing with in Nebraska and Kansas, but this one also has the chance to go up to a moderate risk. We'll have to see what they actually do with tomorrow's update on this. We actually do have a mesoscale discussion in effect for parts of Vermont, upstate New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and a little bit of northwesternmost West Virginia. They have an 80% chance that this will actually go up and become a severe thunderstorm watch somewhere within here. They're talking about gradually some convective coverage coming over these areas. We already have one line of storms going through central PA and into upstate New York, so we're already getting going with these storms. If we actually look at the radar, you can see how we do have that line of storms just east of Rochester, and then another one east of Pittsburgh. They're going to cross over central Pennsylvania. We might see those break up a little bit as you go into the higher terrain of central Pennsylvania, with a few higher elevation regions reaching up to 2,000, 3,000, even 4,000 feet in elevation. So they might break up a little bit and then kind of regain their strength on the other side of the mountains in central Pennsylvania. So we'll have to see exactly what does happen with these storms. You can also see that we have a large area of just steady rainfall going from southern Ontario all the way into parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. And if we look in the Central Plains, nothing too major just yet. You can see in South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kansas, we don't have too much going on, but we do have a couple of storms here and there, and we're going to be building off that right now. So you can see that this would be the simulated radar for later tonight, so around 7 p.m. Central Time, and you can see that we have some of these storms rolling through the Dakotas and also into Nebraska, even a few storms into Colorado and Kansas. These are going to continue to strengthen through the overnight hours. So I would say the biggest threat is going to be from 6 p.m. tonight all the way until about 3 or 4 in the morning as well. So within that time period, try and stay within your house or within somewhere where you have shelter so that you're not caught in the middle of one of these storms. Because if you are caught in the middle of one of these storms without any shelter, it will be definitely a very dangerous situation with all the flying debris that could happen because of these strong gusty winds, and also some rather large hail that we could be dealing with in some of these areas. So you can already see these do look quite strong in parts of Nebraska where we have that moderate risk. You can see we have multiple different locations where we're dealing with strong gusty thunderstorms. Here would be by around 1 in the morning tomorrow. Very early in the morning, we're dealing with in eastern Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, more of a steady rain mixed in with a little bit of thunder and lightning, maybe a little bit of convective activity through there. Now you're going to start to see this go into Iowa, Missouri, eastern Kansas, and this is when it's going to regain its strength. So in the morning hours, it expended all its energy, and now as the sun is rising, it's gaining more energy. We're seeing the instability rise as the sun comes up in the morning. So as that's happening, we're actually going to see these storms start to increase in their strength. So they're going through parts of central Iowa, northern Missouri. This would be by around 7 in the morning tomorrow, Central Time. And you can see that we have these storms in through central Iowa, northern Missouri. Moving this forward a little bit more, you can see how this line of storms heads into northern Missouri and eastern Kansas, and it actually strengthens a little bit. So this does look like a fairly good looking type of storm here, where we have a big area of heavy rainfall and potentially gusty winds associated with some hail as well in these areas. We're not looking at a huge tornado threat, although that is definitely an issue. We could be seeing a couple scattered tornadoes here and there, although again, the biggest threat is going to be the wind. We actually have a 45% chance of damaging winds, I believe, or 30% chance. So somewhere on the higher end of that scale in terms of the potential wind damage with these events, especially in southern Nebraska and northwestern Kansas. Here would be in the southern plains. So let's shift this over. This would be the second day of this event, and as we're going into Thursday night, these are going to ramp up over parts of Oklahoma, northern Texas, parts of Arkansas, Missouri, a little bit of southern Kansas as well. So you can see this first line dying out right here, but watch out for these two lines right here. So these both are going to start to increase in their strength, and you're going to see that on this next frame. We have a very robust and strong line into central Oklahoma, western Texas, also dealing with a few lines of storms. You can also see all through parts of central and southern Missouri a few lines of storms starting to pop up there, and that's because we have an insane amount of energy and instability in the atmosphere. So this would be by Thursday night around, I would say, probably around 10 or 11 o'clock Central Time, and we're dealing with more of these storms still continuing to rampage through parts of southern Missouri, eastern Oklahoma, northern Texas. They're a little bit weaker than what we saw in Nebraska and Kansas, but they are still quite intense, and they are still something that you want to pay attention for and definitely take precaution with. Here to be by very early on Friday morning, and you can see this is around 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. In the morning, and you're dealing with a few of these storms still into southern Missouri and southeastern Oklahoma, but they are starting to wrap up and die out in those areas. Let's shift our attention to parts of the Northeast because those areas will also will be dealing with also some of these severe storms. You can see some of these smaller clusters of storms into parts of Pennsylvania, New York, even into parts of Quebec and Canada, and all along parts of western Virginia and also eastern West Virginia, western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee. All of these areas are actually dealing with a few scattered storms, although the main threat is going to be for later this evening. So this would be around this would be around 5 or 6 o'clock Eastern time, and you can see we have a large area that's being impacted with these scattered storms. So we have a few lines, a few scattered storms into northern New England, a few more into upstate New York, Pennsylvania, into a little bit of Ohio and West Virginia as well. So we will be just dealing with a general area of storminess and severe storms into this evening. So this would be again right around 6 or 7 o'clock at night. Here would be around 9 or 10 o'clock, and you can see that we have these storms now starting to reach the coast in some of these areas, although I think over this zone right here, they will start to break off a lot more because we do have somewhat of a marine layer coming onshore, so that will be an issue. We will have some of those effects from the slightly cooler waters in the Atlantic that will cool down the coastal areas, and it will prevent some of these storms from developing too majorly in those areas. So it's going to be areas that, again, like I've been saying over the past couple of days, that are 25 to 50 miles away from the coast. Those are the areas that are really going to be impacted by the storms the most. So you can see that into parts of upstate New York and Pennsylvania, we have some of these storms still rolling through these areas. They're now starting to impact parts of Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, into parts of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. So pretty much anywhere in the Northeast has a threat of some storms. And again, the most severe of the storms are probably going to be, I would actually say, within this area right here. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in here they actually do put up an enhanced risk. And then you can see they die out by the very early morning hours or very late tonight. So around 11 or 12 o'clock at night into 1 or 2 in the morning tomorrow is when these storms should start to actually break off. So here is what the CAPE values look like, and this is the energy. This is a way of measuring the energy in the atmosphere. You can see in the central and southern plains we have high amounts of CAPE, so around 3 to 5,000 all throughout this area for today. So we have really, really high amounts of CAPE. If we look at if we actually look at for tomorrow, so that was for today. That was for tomorrow. Here's for Thursday, and you can see that we have some of these CAPE values that are actually going to be really, really high in these areas. So for parts of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, all of these areas are dealing with a staggering amounts of CAPE, and that's really going to help these storms develop in many of these regions. Here would be the dew points, and you can see that we have dew points that are going to be into the 70s all throughout the central and southern plains, and we're going to have mid-60s all throughout parts of the eastern seaboard. So parts of the northeast where they're dealing with severe storms, and also the central and southern plains will be dealing with very high dew points relative to the normal. And if we look at for tomorrow, you can see that we also have relatively high dew points in many of these areas, into the mid-70s in a few of these regions. So these are really, really high dew points mixed in with these very warm high temperatures, and you can see that we're probably going to have a rather active day in terms of severe weather, which is already getting off to a hot start here. So that is going to wrap it up for today's video. Please consider liking the video, subscribing, and turning on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.